Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We are live and we got a lot of stuff to get to, so let's do it. So today, Democrats resoundingly nominate Nancy Pelosi as Speaker, but we still don't know what's going to come next. Hint, she's going to be Speaker. I guess there's still a little bit of question, but no. Democrats in the left lose a very key battle lower down in the ballot. We take a look at Tim Scott's very questionable vote, white supremacists love Tucker Carlson, some bad takes about the new progressives in Congress, and a hilarious story about the Proud Boys. That's all coming your way, and a pretty funny things going on there with that stuff. All right. Yeah, we got a lot to get to, so let's just do it here as Representative Nancy Pelosi overwhelmingly won the Democratic nomination on Wednesday to be Speaker when the new Congress convenes in January, but the defection of 32 Democrats signaled she could face a divisive fight to lead the House just as the party assumes control. The result kept alive by a threat of messy intra-party feud touched off, and by the way, again, there has been very little, if not any, resistance from this on the left. What the left has been putting their attention is for the House caucus leadership position, where they wanted to see Barbara Lee get a seat at the table, who's a black woman, tons of years of experience. She's a very good progressive, and she has a history of actually challenging the status quo, which is something the Democrats really, really need in there. Obviously, we'll get to what happened with her in a second, but still, we will continue to talk about it. So, at the same time, it confirmed, despite a drumbeat of calls within the Congress for new leadership, the most Democrats support returning the 78-year-old Californian, the first woman to be Speaker to the post, Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi getting reelected there. A secret ballot vote that dramatized rifts among Democrats only weeks after the midterm election victories handed them the majority. Mrs. Pelosi running unopposed, won the support from 203 Democrats beyond the 32 no votes. That 3 ballots were left blank. It's a big victory, she exulted as she made her way to the Capitol after results were announced, brushing aside questions about her detractors and saying she felt great. You're going to win. It's not that big of a surprise, Nancy. So just come, chill. To become Speaker, Nancy Pelosi is going to have to win 218 votes on the House floor on January 3rd. This gives opponents some time to recruit a serious challenger, something they said they could only occur once they showed she lacked the votes to be elected. Now she has showed that. But the tally also demonstrated pretty much the limits of dissidents who want fresh faces at the top of the party. What I think could be really dangerous is if the right wing of the Democratic Party and the right team up to nominate a Republican name as Speaker of the House, or a really far right, like a Joe Manchin as Speaker of the House, or something along that line. Like, this is like a nightmare scenario. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's very possible that could happen. And that's, I think, the thing we have to watch out for next, because what if that does? That's very, very scary stuff. Speaking with reporters at votes retaliation, Pelosi hinted that she expected her opposition to erode, saying, quote, "I think we're in pretty good shape. I don't want to make other people's announcements for them, but we're going to go forward with confidence and humility." But some who voted against her on Wednesday said they were repelled by the politicking that has defined her speakership fight so far, and were determined to maintain their opposition in part because of it. Because, that's what was going on. I mean, if you politic literally so much in your own caucus to gain support and unity, it does not bode well for the rest of your time there. And I think that's actually a pretty interesting point. And it's very, very true. So Max Rose of New York saying, "I made a promise to the voters of my district that I would be a no under any circumstances," Representative Max Rose of New York said, adding that he was mystified that journalists continued to ask him whether he would change his position. So Max Rose, again, is one of those far-right Democrats who's actually causing the party disunity in this situation, and of course the media is going way easy on him. So he has different positions. It's fine. It's totally chill. It's totally chill. Don't worry about it. It's all right. It's okay. Yeah, so it's pretty ridiculous. Anyway, so what it means though is a culture of politics in this town where people change their opinions. Yes, people do change their opinion. It happens in life, Max Rose. I mean, welcome to Washington. Welcome to America. So I'm not swaying with a win. I believe that many of us members came here to see not for just one fight, but change the politics in this country. Just before the balloting began, Pelosi dispensed with one major obstacle that threatened to strengthen her foes, securing the support of a small but critical bloc of Democrats. She agreed to change House rules to give rank-and-file members more influence in Congress. After painstaking negotiations that stretched into the wee hours of Wednesday, Pelosi had struck a deal with the Problem Solvers Caucus, which had withheld its support until it secured changes that its members said would break the partisan gridlock by empowering lawmakers to forge bipartisan compromises, which is not a good news. And the fact that, like, Pelosi, she just had to bend over backwards to absolutely everybody. And it's like, you're supposed to be able to, like, if you're really, like, we're facing a Republican presidency of Donald Trump and a Republican Senate with Mitch McConnell, and they are, like, you need to be on your best with them. And the fact that you have this kind of, like, you need to do this kind of negotiating, this kind of pulling around to get support is very, very disturbing. So, yeah. This, again, the latest example, Pelosi's quiet campaign, apparently, to wear down her opponents came minutes before the Democrats formally nominating her for a post, and not long before the start of the vote testing the strength of her support. We have reached an agreement with Leader Pelosi to break the gridlock for the American people, and will support her. And I mean, like, let's be honest, there is no real indication that the Americans, like, the biggest concern of America is partisan gridlock. They have much bigger concerns on their mind, and they mostly, 100% almost, have to do with the policy. If you look at, like, partisan gridlock, that's like 7th or something like that in the issues most people care about. And you know what's first? Healthcare. You know what's second? The economy. Like, that's what's going on. And overwhelmingly, people like the left-wing solutions. I'm just saying, if you want to go by the polls there, if you just want to go by your gut instinct, see where that gets you. Hint, it gets you, like, someone like Donald Trump. Okay. But that was not the only election. Nancy Pelosi is not the only election that took place. Back in July, after Representative Joe Crowley lost his primary to that little socialist upstart, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Barbara Lee, one of the few actually generally good people to serve in Congress, announced that she would be running to replace Joe Crowley as the House Democratic Caucus chair, the fourth highest ranking position in the party leadership. Today, Lee narrowly lost to Hakeem Jeffries, a guy who supports charter schools. Amazing. Lee went down in a 123 to 113 vote, pretty close. Not too bad, actually. So this comes just 2 years after Lee lost her election for vice chair of the caucus by 2 votes to fellow representative from California, Linda Sanchez. Reports from the vote indicate Jeffries won in part because he made the case he'll bring youth to the leadership, which currently only compromised to people in their 70s, as Lee is 72, Jeffries is 48. Both Barbara Lee, apparently, and Jackie Spire emerged from this vote saying that ageism and sexism were factored in the outcome. So apparently Barbara Lee said he had the votes, and said that Barbara Lee had the votes and people were flipped. According to Jackie Spire, Spire said she called for open public leadership in elections, in the future, so members can't pledge their votes to the candidate, then flip-flop. Spire says there may have been some ageism and sexism involved, which is interesting, possible, but you're probably not going to hear Barbara Lee complaining about that. Just a prediction. Lee, who is the only member in all of Congress to vote against the bill, giving George Bush unlimited powers after 9/11. It's a good look. Would have been the first black woman to, this is Lee. For a second, I thought it was Jeffries. She was the only member in all of Congress to vote against the bill giving George W. Bush unlimited war powers after 9/11. That's pretty good stuff. She would have been the first black woman to serve on the congressional leadership team of either party. Identity politics, get the case there, if you're concerned about that kind of stuff. Almost immediately, progressive Democrats began spinning this as a win, even though the worst candidate won, painting in Jeffries, who only announced he was running for this job a few weeks ago, the same day as Sanchez dropped out of the running, the person from last time, as a solidly on the progressive wing of the party, which is not true. I know those people actually want progressives to win, but there is a simple reality, and if some people are on the left, some people are on the right, and that's just the truth. So take a look at his resume here. Jeffries was long rumored to be considering a primary challenge to New York Mayor Bill de Blasio from the right, in part because de Blasio apparently did not love charter schools enough, which is still, it makes him look absolutely great from the left. He's solely the left wing, guys. Yeah, totally. For an accurate picture of what Jeffries believes, you can take a look at this description of him in The Economist, saying, quote, Mr. Jeffries is not a member of the moderate New Democrats faction, but often sounds as if he should be. He's defended charter schools and fiscal rectitude. Although he supports universal health care coverage, he speaks of the importance of market forces and getting things done in a responsible faction. He quoted Ronald Reagan approvingly, great look for a Democrat, again, quoting a Republican president approvingly, I don't care who it is, saying that a flourishing private sector, he said he means promoting a flourishing private sector outside the legitimate function of government. The eternal quest to strike the right balance between the two is the American dream. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that is not very good. And then, of course, also you have the campaign finance records. Only 1.3% of Hakeem Jeffries' money in the last election came from small dollar contributions, so he is pretty much bought and paid for by big corporations. Saying the guy, this is the guy running for House against progressive champion Barbara Lee for the House Democratic House Chair. Jeffries has spent much of the last 2 years in publicly demonizing progressive while he rakes in the corporate PAC money, and saying, quote, here's some of the things he said here, saying he called Bernie Sanders a gun-loving socialist with zero foreign policy experience. He also said Bernie Sanders is not a true friend to blacks. I think getting chained to a woman while you're protesting on the Selma March, like, I think that's just a good friendship right there. He said, and Northam is a more centrist candidate, so the victory, went on to victory in the general. It's obvious the Democrats chose the most appropriate candidate. The progressive agenda should be absolutely respected and as important to the future of our nation, but it remains to be seen how potent a force it'll be in primarying Democrats. And I think he said that at the time of Ralph Northam in Virginia, so he's been proven wrong at that time. Yeah, so, yeah, and he gets 70% of his PAC dollars from PAC money from businesses and just 26% from labor. So that shows you, again, where his priorities are. So, that's our newest House chair, everyone. Yay. So happy. All right. Yeah, so it really should not have been a close call for Tim Scott. He is the only black Republican representing South Carolina in the U.S. Senate. He's the only black Republican man in the U.S. Senate. He's the first black man to be elected to such a seat from the Deep South since Reconstruction. The black man who took the Senate a few years ago to speak passionately about racial profiling. He should have quickly opposed the nomination of Thomas Farr for a federal judgeship in eastern North Carolina. Instead, he remained in the Senate cloakroom for nearly an hour before finally voting to advance the nomination. I don't know what he was doing in there. While he has a chance to scuttle the nomination, there is no good reason. He still has a chance to scuttle the nomination. There was no good reason for him to have done it today. He cast a 50th vote in favor of Farr, which would trigger a tie that could have been quickly broken by Vice President Mike Pence. We don't know what Scott would do in the final vote, but if he actually stops Farr from taking a seat that should have gone to qualified black women nominees during the Obama era, that nominations that were stopped by the Republican Party once again, no surprise there. It's a shocker. That showed no remorse as it voted again and again against well-qualified Obama nominees. Like, this is something that needs to happen, because we are just seeing, again, time and time again, Republicans just treat, like, we're seeing awful picks by nominees on the Republican side, like, just awful Republican nominees for the judgeship, and it's just really disturbing, actually, how bad they are. And secondly, we have Democrats who actually put out